Hello. Welcome back to More Life, Less Drama. I'm doing things a little differently today. I've set up a different space here in my office and I just wanted to do something new for the very special episode of 100, which is what we're going to do today. So thanks for joining me on today's episode and watching along, or you might just be listening along, but just know if you are listening, things are a little different in the scene stage of the More Life, Less Drama podcast today, and we're just testing it out because, hey, that's what we're here to do. We're here to test things out, try things out, see what they come back like, and improve things along the way. More importantly, I wanted to be comfortable today and have this conversation with you in a different way, because it is a different conversation that I'm going to have with you today. And we are going to reflect back on the last 100 episodes of More Life, Less Drama and talk from the heart and not be scripted and not have a point to get across in this episode. So if you're willing to tune in for a heartfelt episode, this is the one to tune into, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's get into it, my friends. So firstly, a huge congratulations to myself, and pat myself on the back here, for reaching 100 episodes. It has taken me just over 2 years to reach 100 episodes. And as you know, 52 weeks in a year, so I've missed a couple of weeks along the way. But to me, reaching 100 episodes just over 2 years is incredibly... I just feel lots of pride in myself for doing that, because who knows, when I was starting at episode 1, where I was so nervous and so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the same time to figure out how this podcast was going to go and how I was going to show up every week and come up with content to share every week. And just to know that I have now reached 100 episodes, it's a huge achievement, and I am proud of myself, because I'm thinking, if we put it into the model, that this is a huge deal. It's a big deal, and not many people reach this. Every time I speak to somebody about the podcast, the first thing they say is, how many episodes have you done? And I'm like, getting close to 100, or whatever the case may be. And they're like, wow, you are in the top 2% of podcasters, because most podcasters don't get beyond episode 20. And I'm like, well, there you go. I'm in the top 2%, which is nice to hear. It would be also great to get this podcast out further and reaching more ears, because that is the mission, right? It's not just for 1 or 2 people, even though I'm so grateful for the few people that listen to this podcast right now. I want it to reach further, and that brings me to the gratitude that I have for my current listeners. And I just want to say a huge thank you to tuning in, letting me know that you're listening and what you're taking away from it. I was down in Sydney last week, and I was staying with my brother and sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law, Erica, shout out to you, because she is an avid listener and she listens every week. And it was so funny because we came back from somewhere and she was saying that she was listening to my podcast while she was having a cinnamon scroll in the car. And she's like, your voice is just really soothing, and it's really, teaches me a lot as well. She said, I always take lots of notes. And she sort of repeated back to me a few things that she had written down. And yeah, Erica, you just don't know how much that means to me, that you're listening to the podcast, firstly. And secondly, that you actually are taking something away from it, because this is just not me, sharing my thoughts and sharing, advice that because I think I'm better than anybody else or I've got the right advice. It's really sharing the stuff that I have learned over the last decade or so, being in personal development, learning how to become a coach, and having numerous experiences with coaching myself and in life. I'm 48 years old almost, so I've got a lot of experience in life. And to know that I can support somebody and teach them a way that can create less drama in their own lives means so much to me, because as you know, this podcast, More Life, Less Drama, is about creating the the life that you love and that you don't feel trapped in, that you don't feel anxious in, that you don't have this thought of how can I get out of my life all the time, or constantly trying to change people. And this is the place where I am coming from every time I show up to record an episode for you. And so back to all my listeners, I'm thanking you so very much for tuning in. It means the world to me to know that I have regular listeners and that people are hearing what I've got to say and they can either resonate with it or learn something from it, and hopefully go out and teach it to others once they've cemented the learning in themselves. And I know so many people are doing that. They're learning it for themselves and then they're sharing it with others and implementing it into their lives, which is the key to making any sort of change, is doing the actions that make the change. And so it's not just learning about something, it's implementing it into your life. So I'm so very grateful for all of you, and I hope that you can stay engaged with this podcast and you can keep listening along, because it does mean the world to me. Because the reason I started this podcast way back 2 years ago was so I can get my message out to more people. Because the truth is, working with one-on-one clients, it's fantastic and in small groups, but to reach more people, to make it easily accessible for people to learn this stuff, because there's no gatekeeping going on here. It's about getting it out to as many people as possible. And the whole idea that people who are doing self-development and working on themselves and trying to make themselves better for the world, like it's not just making themselves better for themselves, like as individuals, it's making them better for, their family involvement, for their communities, and as I said, the world. It's only 10% of people. And I actually share that figure with most people that I start working with, because when they think, oh, this is a little bit silly that I need help with this, or why can't I do this on my own? I share that statistic with them, that 10% of people in the whole entire world, of the 8 billion people that are in the world, are doing self-development work. And I often also say that the work that we are doing, that those 10% of people are actually doing it for everybody else. Because the truth is, people come to coaching and come and do self-development because they're dealing with other people in their lives that don't see things the same as they see things. And they want to be able to resolve it for themselves because they know it's going to help them and help everybody. But we are also doing it for those people that are unwilling to do it for themselves. We are holding and pulling up the whole entire planet, because we are doing this work. And it is so very important, and that is why I started this podcast, because for as many podcasts as there are out there in the personal development and the teaching space, there is always room for one more. There is always room for one more voice saying potentially the same thing, but just slightly in their own unique way, that somebody will hear it from them first. And that's what I'm doing, because I know I say things differently to how many other people say things, yet it's the same message. And I know that there are a few people out there that need to hear it from me. And so that has me showing up, continuing to do this podcast and to figure out how to get this message out loud and clear so I can help those people that are waiting for me to say it. So that is why I started this podcast in the first place, and I wanted to reach more people. And so from my 100th episode on, I am really doubling down on getting this message out there. And so my only thing that I'll ever ask from you is to share the podcast, to write a review, to keep engaging with it, keep doing the work, and that, my friends, would be enough for me to hopefully help reach the next lot of people that will need this work as well. And the honest truth is that these last 2 years has been the hardest 2 years of my whole entire life. And it's so interesting that it has coincided with the production of this podcast, because it just shows me, now that I have time to reflect back, because when you're in it, you actually just are so deep in the weeds that you can't see the goodness that is coming out of things. But that is why it's so important to reflect. So the reflection for me is that while I was going through these last 2 years, but still simultaneously showing up to produce content that was really helpful for others, it was helping me the most. So if I didn't have the things that I had in my life that were especially in the coaching realm, so for me it was this podcast. I also had a 6-month mastermind I was in that basically went for 9 months though, and showing up to that really helped me stay in my own personal strength and empowerment to get through those hardest years of my life. And if you're wondering what those hard years were all about, well, I won't share a lot because I don't want to bore you, honestly. but I will share that firstly, I was going through perimenopause. So I had entered the stage of my life. Like I said, I'm 48 years old almost. And for the last couple of years, my hormones have been fluctuating. And I have never had mental health issues in my life, like never. Like I've had plenty of people around me that have, and I used to always say that even though I haven't experienced it, I'm always capable of helping people. But up until that stage, I had not experienced any mental health distress in my life. But for the last 2 years, so especially last year and maybe half of the year before, but particularly last year, 2024, I was paralyzed with mental health. And for me, what that looked like was, well, I was a complete emotional mess to start with. I would just be crying all the time. I had so much self-doubt in my mind about everything. I was doubting why on earth I was doing everything. I was doubting my relationships. I was doubting how I was parenting. I was doubting my move to the Gold Coast. I was doubting the career choices that I had chosen. I was doubting everything. And I honestly had these moments through that time where I could not see that anything was good. And it was the only time in my life that I wasn't suicidal. And I just want to say that to you. And I don't want you to come out and be like, oh my God, I didn't know any of this. And I want to help you and give me all the advice, because I do not need the advice right now. I'm not sharing that for this reason, but I'm sharing it with you to show you that how, like, the power of coaching and personal development can help you through these things. But I was not suicidal, but I did often think to myself that it would be a hell of a lot easier not to be here. And I know that might sound the same, but it's not the same. And there was so many moments where I was like, oh, hurry up and this life will finish so I can start my new one, because I'm a full believer that there is life after death. And all different sorts of reincarnations and things like that. So just a little side note. But the whole experience of going through that mental health challenge has made me stronger. It has made me realize my own capabilities, and that ultimately, and this is really sad, but it is actually what I have figured out to be true, is that ultimately all we have is ourselves to rely on. And even though there is incredible support in my family from my kids and my husband and stuff like that, ultimately it is up to me to move through it, to understand it, to reconcile the emotions, to work on myself, to get through those hard moments, which now on the other side, I realize how very important my role in the world is. Because there was a time through that where I was feeling super down because I wasn't making enough money to sustain, our lifestyle basically up here, and to sustain the family and to support sustaining the family. I have a really great support system in my husband for financial support especially, and I just wasn't pulling in my share that I had normally done over all these years. And there was two sides to that. It's like, okay, I can quit and do something different, or I can really acknowledge how important that this role is, that coaching and supporting people throughout these most difficult times is so important in the world. And I remember crying to my husband one day saying, he might not like his role, that, he doesn't love his job, yet he's really great at it. But I love this job of mine. Like, if we just want to, say that my career is my job, I love this job. And the thought of giving it up was heartbreaking, because I know what an impact it was having in people's lives, and I just wasn't willing to do that. I had ups and downs all the time, but at the end of the day, if given the opportunity to give up on this career path, it's a hell no, because I know how very important that this is for people. And so for me, leaning in to the discomfort of not making the money that I wanted to make and not having the community that I wanted to build just yet, it's okay. It doesn't matter, because I am still creating impact. I am still, holding the space for people that need it. And so going through that extremely hard time for me was really important to get this piece of reflection after the fact. And again, these last 2 years has been the most incredibly difficult 2 years. Maybe just 1 year. I may be exaggerating. But 1 year, definitely 2024, was like the worst year. People even close to me didn't even really know that, because I just held all the cards close to my chest all the time, which is one of my biggest weaknesses, not asking for help. It's something I'm working on. So people that were around me, could see a little bit of a falter, I suppose, but didn't realise how much I was struggling emotionally. And upon going to the doctor, asking for help, getting on hormone replacement therapy or menopause, replacement therapy, I feel so much more like myself again. I actually feel different to how I have ever felt in my whole entire life. And it has brought on a few new changes, the hair being one of them for sure, which I love, by the way. The old version of me would never have done that, ever. I think I've changed my hair one other time in the whole 27 or 28 years of my adult life. And it was purely because I didn't want people to notice it or say anything about it or have an opinion about it. So it was just easier to stay the same, right? So part of the journey is really just allowing myself to be me and figuring out what that looks like in today's life and in the soon-to-be 48-year-old version of Prue, and moving forward, that's what I want to support people with. And there's no way that I'm giving up on this podcast or my career that I've chosen as a coach and as a mentor and as a consultant. And I'm going to teach you by first doing it myself how to go through the hard times and come out the other side. So again, it's just those hard years have helped and shaped who I am today. And as much as you don't wish those upon anybody, I just know that if you have the tools that I have, you can get through anything. Like, you literally can. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows and daisies, but you will get through it. And as much as you won't see it in the moment, you will be better for it. And so that's what I'm going to be continuing to talk about on the podcast moving forward. So this podcast has helped me show up for me, and even through the hardest times, it has been a consistent in my life. And I highly recommend always having something like that in your own life that you have, so you can keep showing up for things. Because if you have nothing, if you've got nothing to do, nothing to focus on, the more depressive you will get. I can guarantee that. So that was my learning from my 2 years of hard lessons, and I hope that you can take something away from that as well. The biggest takeaway for me from this podcast for you is teaching you how to be self-responsible. Like I just said, you are the only person that you can rely on to get through anything, because you are the only person that has control over your thoughts and how you feel and your results in life. As I teach inside my coaching, and I use the self-coaching model by Brooke Castillo, the only thing that you get in your life is your results. So we call it the results line, but you're the only one that can create your own results. Nobody else can create your results but you. So the sooner and the quicker you learn self-responsibility, the better and the faster you will get to having what you want and feeling how you want to feel in your day-to-day life. It is not to say, though, my friends, that even when you do all this work, you will not feel the so-called negative emotions, because, again, teachings from Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School, life is 50-50. 50% are going to be the positive emotions and 50% will be the negative emotions. And that's just how life is. And I truly live into that statement, because if life was always 100% perfect and beautiful and lovely and joyful, how on earth would you know that was all those things? Because you have to have the polar opposite of that to actually figure that out. So self-responsibility is the main reason that I show up and teach you all these things on this podcast. And it is so you can stop outsourcing how you feel and take back control of how you feel and how you manage your mind and the results that you get in your own life. So if you've got results, and these could also be classified as goals in your life, you can most definitely figure out how to get there by first managing your mind and then showing up in a way that you know supports those goals. And that is 100% what I teach inside my programs. I have, as you know, the program, the Finishers Club, which is all about helping you achieve your first goal and then every goal. Another thing that I've got to overcome, or have had to overcome over these last couple of years, and it's something I'm still working on, is people close to me not understanding what I do. And I've had to reconcile that this is okay. Like, some of my closest family members will outwardly say, I don't believe in any of that rubbish. Or even other things like, oh, you know, I'm proud of you, but I don't listen to that sort of stuff. And that is fine. In the early days, I let it stop me from showing up. And, well, even today, I still let it stop me from showing up. Even talking about it right now gives me a little feeling of anxiousness, because I think to myself, oh, what happens if they hear this? What happens if they hear what I'm saying right now and it makes them angry or sad or whatever? What I want to say to that is I acknowledge the anxiety in myself when I bring up this topic, and it's also okay for me to bring up this topic, because if I want to grow, I'm growing for myself. I'm not waiting for permission from somebody else to believe in me or to get what I'm talking about. I just need to get it for myself. And like I've already said, I know how helpful this whole business of coaching is, and this whole space is for personal development, and I'm all for it. And that's all I have to believe. I just have to believe in myself. So I'm doubling down on the belief I have in myself and what I do, and not showing up to please others, because, hey, I have been a people pleaser my whole entire life, and this new identity of Prue is not going to continue down that path, as hard as it might be. So instead of thinking about the people that might be offended or just not believers in the things I do and showing up for them and trying to convince them that it's good, I'm going to show up for you guys, the people that tune in every week and listen to it because you know it's helpful or you find it helpful in your life. And that's who I'm going to show up for. So know that in your life too, that you will have these people and it's totally okay. We don't get to change people, but we do have control over how we show up. And if it's stopping you from showing up as your true self, I want you to just show up as you and not let that stop you. So this means I'm going to be owning my voice more. I'm going to be speaking up more. I'm going to really allow my voice and my beliefs to come out without filter, because I don't want to shrink anymore. Like, shrinking is not conducive to helping the world. It's just not. And so that is what I'm going to be doing more of in this podcast. I'm going to be talking to some more amazing people that have ideas that are mostly way bigger than mine, and I want to discuss these ideas with people because it's really important for people to hear all sorts of perspectives and all sorts of ideas, and that is what the More Life, Less Drama podcast is all about. If you want less drama in your life, you have to learn how to create that for yourself, and you do that by learning and gaining more knowledge and hearing different ideas. So that is what I'm going to be doing. No more shrinking, no more dulling myself down, me just being me and showing up unapologetically. That's what I'm going to do. So what's next for this podcast? And that's a great question because really sitting here doing this 100th episode, I have a million ideas. I'm the type of person that doesn't lack ideas. But because I have been feeling a little bit overwhelmed of late, putting ideas into action is a little more difficult. And I want to really progress this podcast by sharing it wider, having a larger audience and having more guests on the podcast as well. But I still do love my solo episodes, because the solo episodes is where I really get to fully teach you how to do things, and I love that. And so I think I will stick with my one guest a month and just do 3 solo episodes to help teach you how to do the things that I'm really passionate about teaching. And yeah, I think that's where we'll go from here. If you have anybody in mind that you would love to see on this podcast, please reach out to me and let me know, and or tag me in on Instagram or Facebook to the people that you think that I should be talking to. And even if you've got ideas of topics that you want me to discuss and my thoughts on things, that is something that I'm willing to take on board and hear what you want to hear from this podcast. And on that, I actually want to ask you a question. For a while now, I've been thinking about having a question and answer type of podcast. It's where you write in questions and I get to answer them from my perspective, or how to support you from my perspective. So if you're interested in doing that, that'd be really fun for me. But it means I will need some questions, and I would need people to write in and to ask these questions to support. It's like one of those, columns where they're like, "Dear Sally, I need your help in supporting with this." And I would love that, because I actually feel like it's my superpower to give a different perspective on how you can approach things. So maybe that's an idea for the future as well. Maybe I could do one a month that is like that. What do you think? Anyway, just throwing out ideas as I'm thinking of them. Okay, so I think we're wrapping up. I think I've talked on long enough about my 100th episode, and I would also encourage you, if you haven't listened to all 100 episodes, go back and listen to them, because there are some really great podcasts in there with some great ideas and with some great tools to help you get through life and to manage your own mind. And I pretty much give everything away for free on this podcast that I do in my own coaching. So please, everything is already on a platter for you. You just have to go find it. And if you love this podcast and want me to keep going and want me to succeed and get out there a little bit more, leaving a review is the number one way to help me do that. How you do that, if you're on Apple Podcasts, you go to my home screen of this podcast and you scroll all the way down the bottom and you'll see write a review. If you leave a review there, I'll be so very grateful. Okay, well that's it. I think that has wrapped up my 100th episode and my little chit chat with you about what life looks like moving forward. And I've shared with you some hard moments. And again, I really thank you for taking your time out of your day to listen to me. And sometimes it's a little bit rambly and that's okay. I'm still learning how to do this. And speaking out loud has never been my forte. So this is completely outside my comfort zone, and I appreciate you coming along for the ride. And let's look forward to the next 100 episodes. Okay, my friends, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.